right there. Hey, data lovers, and welcome to another episode of I Love Data Fridays here at the International Data Evaluation Center on the campuses of The Ohio State University. And ladies and gentlemen, so good to see you. Welcome back to episode 47 of I Love Data Fridays, our episode about our new on-demand report, our school report. But before we get into that, hey, who's talking data to you? Well, of course, you've got me, Jeff Breimer-Bashore, Director and Co-Principal Investigator here at the International Data Evaluation Center. And as I said earlier, we will be talking about a new on-demand report. So here is our order of operations for today. Nice little math reference for you, order of operations. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little overview of our report design and talk about the intended audience for this report. And then we're going to get right into it and look at an example. Let's do it. Let's talk a little data. I love Data Friday. Okay, let's talk about the intended audience and the design of the report. So the first thing that you need to know that this report was designed to be an advocacy report. So it's not so much a report that you may rely on to help troubleshoot your data. It's a report that you can use with stakeholders, reading recovery stakeholders. So you will find that in this report there is one page for each school. So there's going to be one report on each page for each of the schools in your site. And primarily, we've designed this report to be used with principals and school administrators. And the goal here was try to design a report that if you had to put this report down in front of somebody but weren't able to explain it to them, that they could interpret the report themselves with little or no explanation. Now, of course, we want you to be a part of that conversation so you can be there to answer questions about the data, but we've tried to design it so that the report is easy to interpret and has some simple descriptions on the front of the report. You'll also notice that the report avoids using some of our internal reading recovery jargon. So in places where we would have normally have put reading recovery jargon, we tried to put terminology that would be more familiar to school district administrators. The other thing that we tried to put some effort into is having sort of this minimalist design to the report. So it's not cluttered with a lot of data. Yes, it has some description and some text on it, but we've tried to keep it as short as possible. And we've tried to put the data front and center. We really want the data to speak for itself. So as we've trialed this report with teacher leaders, we've certainly have gotten feedback about additional things to put on the report. And at times we have, and other times we've said no, because we're really trying to keep this minimalist design to put the data front and center. So the report specifically shows data just for first-round students, and it's going to show their fall to mid-year growth, and specifically only students who were either discontinued or recommended. So this is just for this year. Next year, we'll change and update the report. We're just assuming next year that we will have a full and complete school year. Next year, this report will be able to work with the students, show all students throughout the year. But for this year, it just shows data for your first-round students and their fall to mid-year growth, and just specifically those discontinued and recommended students. Now, it uses the OS total score. And the reason why we've selected to use the total score is that the total score really highlights how far behind reading recovery and DLL children are starting, how far behind they're starting when compared to their peers. I know that some of you are not as comfortable talking about the OS total score, and so I'm going to talk about a little feature here, or a little extra later here. In the report, so you can kind of switch back and forth if you need to, but the report uses the OS total score. Now, additionally, we are also showing the months of growth that students are making. So you'll see that with each student, you'll see that there is a month of growth that they've made. Now, the typical first grader, our random sample, make about 5 months of growth. So here, the point of including the months of growth is to show that our kids have to make that accelerated growth, more than 5 months of growth, to catch up to their peers. Now, I think you've already or coming to this conclusion, but I just want to say that this report is also a great conversation starter. So it is meant to cause questions. You'll put the report down in front of somebody, and they're going to notice things about your data, and it's going to cause questions, and that's good. This is a conversation starter. So for those who are not as comfortable talking about the OS total score, for each of your reports we will have, or for each school, there will be included a little cheat sheet. And what this cheat sheet will include, they'll actually include not only the OS total score, the actual total score for each child, but it's going to include their text level at fall and mid-year. And it's also going to include the text level for the typical first grader, our random sample in the United States, and then also we put on there the text level for the typical reading recovery child. So this way, if your school district administrator and you yourself are not as comfortable talking about the total score, you will have some text levels that you can fall back on a little separate cheat sheet that you can use in the conversation. And there will be a reading recovery and DLL version of the report and the cheat sheet. So if you have a school with both reading recovery and DLL in it, there'll be two versions of the report, one for reading recovery, one for DLL, and two versions of the cheat sheet, one for reading recovery and one for your DLL students. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at that report. Okay, just a quick reminder to how to get to our on-demand reports. The first thing that you're going to do is come up to our Reports tab and click on Reports. Then, once you get to the Reports page, we're going to click on the On-Demand Reports subtab. This will open up a new tab in your web browser, and you're going to come to the drop-down box here, and you're going to select the second one from the bottom, this School Report. Okay, so here is our first look at the school report. Just a quick review of some of the features of on-demand reporting here. Up at the top of the box up here, you can see that we have a school year drop-down list right up here. And you can look at this report for previous school years if you want to. Just a reminder that this report is designed currently right now to only work with first-round students. So if you select a previous school year, it will just show the first-round students from that previous school year. Below that, you can see that this report has 32 pages, and we are on page 1 of 32. So if in this, for example, just like this, if your site has 16 schools, it will have 32 pages. So remember, there is one page, one report for each school, and then one cheat sheet for each school. So for this site, with there being 16 schools, there's 16 report pages and 16 cheat sheet pages because there's one of each for each school. The report starts off by showing the name of the school, which is right here. It's blurred out on your screen for this episode. And once again, we've tried to highlight that this is fall to mid-year growth. Below is a little description of reading recovery and a description of the data that is being shown below. We've tried, once again, not to use reading recovery jargon, but terminology that school district administrators are more familiar with. Then below that, we talk about the number of children that are being served. So specifically, we're just counting the number of recommended and discontinued children. So it starts off with a full count of kids receiving a complete intervention. And then below that, we have the count of kids who are recommended or discontinued. So once again, we've tried to avoid some of that reading recovery jargon. Instead of saying discontinued, we were saying reach the class average in reading and writing. And we're also trying to acknowledge that using some of the language that we'll be adopting next year with our changes to our end of program statuses. And then below that, we have our recommended children who are recommended for further support. So once again, our discontinued and recommended children. Now we can move on down to the bar graph itself. So once again, it's just highlighting that it's growth from fall to mid-year. And we're showing growth, like I said, from fall at the start of the year. Fall is where the children are starting at, which is the bottom of each bar, to the middle of the school year, which is the top of each bar. And our reading recovery children, or DLL children, are the gray bars. So you will see student names listed at the bottom of the report. They're blurred out in this example. And then the bar that's in white over here is data for the typical first grader, our random sample in the United States. So this is the data for all the random sample in the U.S., not just the random sample in your site or school district. This is the typical first grader in the United States. Now, you'll notice below each bar we have the months of growth that students are making. So remember, we want to be able to show that our kids are making that accelerated growth. So below the typical first grader in the United States, we see that 5 months of growth. And then here we have our reading recovery kids making that accelerated growth. And in this case, these kids are making 2 to 2.5 months additional growth, 7 to 7.5 months of growth, which is being shown here on that report. And then finally, just below the report, we have another brief description of the reading recovery intervention, that it's a one-to-one working with the lowest achieving first graders. They're working with a specifically trained teacher, and that we are trying to accelerate these students to the class average in reading within 12 to 20 weeks. So that's an overview of the report there. As always, if you need to print out this report, you can go up to here, this select a format. You can say Acrobat PDF file, which will then enable this export button. And when you click export, it will download a PDF file that has one page, a report, a PDF file that contains a report for each of your schools on a page, plus those cheat sheets. Now, I keep talking about these cheat sheets, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at these cheat sheets. So now, as I said, that this particular data we're looking at, this school had 16 schools, and we said that all of the reports are shown first on the first 16 pages, and then the cheat sheets are shown on the last 16 pages. So once again, you'll see that this the name of the school, which is blurred out on your screen right now, right here. So there's one cheat sheet for each school. And then you'll notice if you want to try to describe the OS total score right here, here is some suggested language that you can use, which just says the OS total score is a numerical score representing a child's overall mastery of fundamental literacy skills. It ranges from 0 to 800. The higher the score, the more proficient a child. Then below, we actually have the total score and text level values for each child in that school. So you will see the student names over here. Now on your screen, this has been blurred out again, and you'll see there. So we have our fall data in the first two columns, so their fall total scores, and then their text levels that they had at the beginning of the school year, and then their mid-year total scores and their mid-year text levels. Below them, you'll see the typical first grader in the United States. So that's our random sample. Remember, once again, that's the U.S. random sample. So we have the total score and text level for the random sample at both fall and mid-year. And then an additional piece of information that we've included that if you need to talk about it is the typical reading recovery student in the United States. So the total score and text level for the reading recovery student in the United States at fall and mid-year. So this way, if you need to give some idea of comparisons of how the school compares to what we usually see nationally, that data is there. So once again, there's one cheat sheet for each school. There is a RR and DLL cheat sheet. So if you have a school, like I said, with both reading recovery and DLL, you will get not only one report you will get two reports for that school, a reading recovery report and a DLL report, and you'll also get two cheat sheets, a reading recovery cheat sheet and a DLL cheat sheet for that school. All right, there we go. Our new school report on demand report. It is live and ready for you to use for your advocacy with you and your teachers and your school administrators. But before we go, and I just want to say thank you once again for watching another I Love Data Fridays. But if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to our channel, come on over to our YouTube channel and mash that subscribe button. So I'm going to say thank you once again for watching another episode of I Love Data Fridays. And hey, we will talk data to you later.